My name is Global Kenny. I've been playing now for 3.5 years. Ever since I started playing poker, I really hated playing with nits. I was always like a huge fan of like just being action. So that kind of is what started like the whole anti-nit branding. And the Anti-Nit Academy has been going relatively well.
How many people were talking so far?
Between 150 and 200.
Wow, okay.
I've lost around a 50K pot and I've won around a 50K pot. And they were actually in the same exact session.
You said there in your Instagram, you make your own luck. Isn't that right?
That is true, but obviously we all know it's not luck that, you know, takes you from 1-3 to 25-50. It's the process, it's the journey, and it's like putting the work in that's necessary to get there and then building the role. I think anybody can do it if they put enough.
Get ready to level up. This is Winning the Game of Life, presented to you by Dan Jungleman Cates.
What's up, everyone? I've got here today Kenny Global, who is a rising star in the poker scene. He's been playing on some TV cash games. He's a bit of a tournament player and a cash game player. He's got a lot of cash game fundamentals and has been playing a lot of West Coast events. He's been playing in the Run Good Series WSOP circuit. He's making a splash. He's one of the more interesting characters out there. And he's been winning. He's been playing quite a bit and starting to play a bit of high stakes these days. What's going on, Kenny?
How's it going? Excited to be here. Excited to be on the Jungleman podcast. This should be a lot of fun. And yeah, just excited to be here.
All right, sweet. So first question is, why is your name Kenny Global?
Well, actually, my name is Global Kenny.
Excuse me.
But I don't know. Like the name just kind of stuck. It was actually my like Xbox gamer tag. Like when I played, like when I was like really young, like 13, 14. And then just when I started the content and I decided to start making Instagram content, Global Kenny was just like the first thing that came to my mind. And what do you know, it just kind of stuck.
Oh, fair enough. And would you say that you're global poker-wise?
No, I mean, I guess like one reason like why I chose global just like fundamentally is just because, you know, I like to travel and I think like poker is a cool, you know, gateway into visiting lots of different countries and going to lots of different places just to like play. And so global kind of stuck in that aspect.
Oh yeah, totally. I could see you, especially this is one of the reasons why I picked LA to stay is because it's relatively close to Asia. So you could go to direct flight to Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, all these places where there is poker and do lots of cool things. Maybe Shanghai. There's no poker in Shanghai to my knowledge. But yeah, it would make a lot of sense for you to go to those places, I would think. So you've got a few interesting quirks to your game. So one of the things is your preparation for playing games is unique. Actually, matter of fact, let's start with your anti-nit campaign. How's the campaign going? And have you been able to converting nits into anti-nits at all? Have you got them to start gambling? What's going on here?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, like ever since I started playing poker, like even before I was like pretty much when I was still extremely terrible playing 1-3, like I was always like a huge fan of like just being action and like playing in action games. And like, I really hated playing with nits. So that kind of is what started like the whole anti-nit branding per se. But yeah, like the coaching and like just like trying to get different new faces into Anti-Nit campaign and the Anti-Nit Academy has been going relatively well. I mean, it's a pretty new business and it started about a year ago. But so far so good and looking to eventually scale even bigger in the future.
Oh, you know what I didn't know is like it was an actual campaign, as in you're really trying to recruit players. So how many people were talking so far? How many are in the Anti-Nit campaign? How many are wearing the t-shirt?
I don't know. It's in between 150 and 200. So somewhere in that range.
Really?
Somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah.
Okay. That's decent. So how many recovered nits are there?
I think it's funny because like a lot of the guys that follow us are already like anti-nit, I would say. Like they're already not very nitty, but no, especially some of like the older guys that started wearing this stuff. I think they tend to be like a lot nittier, but they've kind of switched up on the nit and left that behind them.
Fair enough. Well, that's good. That's good. You're getting some of the older guys are probably some of the hardest to convert. So it sounds that you've got a bit of a routine going on for poker. You do a bit of fasting as preparatory work. Why don't you tell us about that? So is it just fasting? What else do you do?
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing that I do is fasting, because one thing that I've just always noticed is I just have a lot of brain fog when I eat a lot, especially when I eat a lot. So even if I'm not fasting, like it's just important to me to just have like a super, super light breakfast if I'm playing that day. And pretty much I won't eat almost at least until the session's over on a regular basis. I mean, it depends on the game and depends on the tournament, but generally speaking, if it's really important to me, I would prefer not to eat. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I drink a white Monster energy drink every single morning. That's part of my routine as well. I think it's quite healthy to, get some caffeine in you early in the morning. And yeah, that's what I like to do. Drink a white Monster, not eat much food, go play poker, and then come back home and, go to bed.
I actually do something similar in the morning, to be fair, but I've never heard anyone say that a Monster energy drink is healthy. A little caffeine, I think, I don't know if it's really healthy, but I personally very tired in the morning, and it definitely helps me wake up. I noticed that. I did not know. Yeah, do you have any research on, or is there any particular reason why, backed by science, that you choose to do this? And also on the fasting side of things.
On the fasting side of things, honestly, it's like I've seen like a bunch of people and YouTube videos of people talking about how fasting could be a really good thing, especially for cognitive function. So that's kind of why I started, but I could immediately feel the effects of how whenever I have like a big breakfast and a lot of carbs in the morning, I always feel pretty lethargic throughout the rest of the day. So that's it was more through personal experience rather. I think like a lot of the things that I do in life, regardless of whether it's healthy or not in theory, actually I just do it because it makes me feel better and it makes me feel like I'm performing better on a regular basis. I kind of like use my own personal experiences to drive, I guess, like what I do on a regular basis rather than like science per se.
Well, sure. Well, that's the idea. Is it's supposed to line up personal experiences, right? It's supposed to work. That's the idea behind science.
Exactly.
That's the idea behind theory. If it doesn't work, then it sucks. It's bad theory.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, there's definitely some science to back up, fasting being a very good thing for just like all sorts of health benefits for that. And then caffeine and nicotine wise, these are just things that I've done for a very long time. And I feel like it helps me, stay focused and just stay focused.
Fair enough. I mean, caffeine. Okay, so caffeine actually does help people focus. The idea, the problem, that what makes it bad is the come off at the end. That's partly what made matcha popular. Was that it had a bit of the high, but it was a slow high versus caffeine is a high and a fall or a faster fall, and it takes from the back end. Whereas matcha doesn't. Maybe it takes a little bit from the back end of your energy, but it's a lot more gradual. But that's the argument against caffeine. I mean, I'm thinking to kick myself, just as I had, of course, a month, but to drink right before coming on this podcast. Oh, yeah. Good job, Jungle Man. Fasting has loads of research about it. You're convincing me to get back into it. Did you not have any bad experiences with fasting, though?
Yeah. I mean, the toughest part about fasting is sometimes, without getting like the proper nutrition, at least from my experience, like towards the latter half of the day, you can actually like start getting almost headaches is what I call them. Like, it's just difficult in a sense that sometimes it feels like you just don't have the proper nutrition. So your head starts to hurt and I like almost get migraines. But, other than that, like at least for that first part of it, I think it's just like amazing and like I feel super, super good. But then you kind of have like this rough patch, maybe around like 4 to 6 p.m. where things like you really want to get nutrition in and you really want to eat food and your head starts to hurt because you haven't had a lot of food yet that day. But just kind of pushing through that, or just like having like a super, super low calorie healthy snack, like a banana, for example, or, some other types of fruits and veggies. Like, I think that can help you push through that barrier and then just kind of like allow you to fast into the evening.
You're supposed to come off, or apparently fruits and veggies are something very easily digestible is important for fasting. I had a different experience. Did you not fast multiple days?
No, I don't fast multiple days. It's like almost intermittent fasting is what I call it. Like, I just won't eat usually till like, I mean, if I have like a big tournament that I'm playing for that day, I pretty much won't eat until my day is over.
That seems to be an effective method for WSOP, especially because their food at this place is not good. It's not particularly easy to get it. I think some people make some, and that takes a minute to arrive. I've toyed with the idea of fasting there. But as someone who's tried fasting for multiple days, I wanted to do a 72-hour fast, which it's supposed to be quite good for you, like almost the most amount that you can fast without going into the territory where it starts to hurt your muscle. Mm-hmm. But as I got into day 3, or actually even on the second day, the first time, I started really not being able to think straight. And on the last time on day 3, I was on hour 67, 68 or so. And was playing like the 50K PPC. And for sure, my thought process was not anywhere near what it was supposed to be. And I was really feeling it. Supposedly comes a bit in waves where your body gets some kind of upswing or gets a new energy or starts taking from a new energy source or gets used to it somehow. But man, if you go that long, you really feel something. That was one of the times where really my mental abilities took a big hit. The other times would pretty much be where I was sleep deprived, and that would be really a massive issue. But yeah, so long-term fasting, apparently not so great. I would say that after like 1 or 2 days after getting used to it, I had a bit of a similar experience as you. I'm thinking to try it again in that it seemed good for focus.
Yeah, I'm really interested in trying like a 72-hour or 48-hour fast as well, just a longer term one, because I've never done that before. The most that I've done is just like essentially for like 24 hours or something like this. But interested in doing that because I do know like there are some very, very significant long-term health benefits that are backed by it, backed by science at least, and would be willing to try that and definitely want to at some point. It's just, like you said, it's difficult because with the amount of poker that I'm playing, you don't want to lose that sort of cognitive function for that long of a period of time when you're planning on playing.
Yeah, for sure. Do not do anything else. It's just the fasting.
Yeah, it's mostly just like fasting, caffeine. I also use a little bit of nicotine as well. Yeah, those are kind of like the three.
Do you like smoke actively or just use a little nicotine as a preparation?
No, I don't smoke nicotine. I use these things called Zins. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're kind of the talk of the town lately. But basically they're just nicotine pouches, and you just slide one into your gum and then just like kind of let it sit there for like half an hour, and then it'll give you nicotine that way. I used to do a lot of like the smoking, but not anymore.
Oh, well, that's nice. You lost the habit. That's not easy. Yeah. I think that nicotine is supposed to give you more focus. I've never heard of the Zyn thing, but maybe it's worth a look into it, because I know that I see lots of live poker players smoke and thought, you know what makes loads of sense is smoking and playing live poker, especially in Asia, actually, because I've known that when I've smoked, it really calms me down and there's lots of nerves running around, and thought, well, it kind of makes sense, even though clearly smoking is not, good for you.
Yeah, but not at all. Not
right.
Definitely, I'm not advocating for it or anything.
That's good news. Okay, well, maybe this nicotine thing makes sense. Like, maybe there's some health benefits to nicotine. There's actually, by the way, one fun fact is that as a response to morphine, heroin was created and thus named in order to actually get people off of morphine. But instead it became this hard drug instead.
Yeah.
And it still has some medical use, as it turns out. I don't know much about that, but in some cases, it is the actual heroin. Who would have thought? So you don't do any meditation, none of that stuff?
Not really. I briefly did a little bit of meditation work, I want to say a few years ago, but that wasn't really, that had nothing really to do with poker, to benefit my poker play or benefit my game at all. It was more so something that I did when I was like in college, just like doing that as like, I don't know, back then I was like very into like self-improvement, self-help type content. And I would like watch a lot of that stuff. And then a lot of the people that would talk about that would talk about a lot of the benefits of meditation practice, as well as intermittent fasting. So that's kind of where I like had the first glimpse of what those types of things could look like, but never really actually like implemented for poker specifically.
So do you think it has much benefit towards poker or towards you making any money?
I think it kind of depends on the person, because I think there's a lot of people that could very, very drastically benefit from meditation just because their emotions are all over the place all the time, and it's going to help them really like center themselves in a way that allows them to play their best. But for other players, you know, that maybe have like already a very strong mental state, maybe not as much.
Yeah, I was curious to see where you go with this, because one thing, this guy who I really respect in business anyway, Alex Hormozy, he doesn't follow the whole crowd on this whole like do these crazy morning routine things. Like, have you ever seen that guy who's got his like 4-hour morning routine? Yeah. At some point it becomes absurd to people. Yeah. I've watched that and think, what is going on? Like, what planet are we on? Like, at which point does he start actually doing something of use? But Alex Hormozy, he says like a lot of these guys who do these crazy morning routines are already successful, and that the way that he got successful is focusing a lot on poker, or excuse me, not his version of poker, his business. Yeah. Working really hard at his business, which, yeah, if you're trying to get successful, it makes most sense to actually focus on those things. That's in a way a form of meditation. And then the meditation's still useful. It's just not when we're talking about making money.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's one thing that like I've noticed a lot as well, is like there's so much content out there about like how meditation can help you, you know, like all these rich entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs that are, you know, posting different content online. They have these crazy morning routines, these crazy rituals. And like what most people don't understand, or maybe they do understand, but they're not actually doing it, is like, it's just a work that got them there. It's not really exactly the morning routine. This has just helped them like optimize their daily routine in a sense. But yeah, like it's just like, it's crazy to me that like people will, instead of just, you know, focusing on what's actually going to move the needle for them, they would rather just like have this like ultra prolongated morning routine just to like get them into like the perfect state of mind to do no work whatsoever.
Yeah. I do think there's some value to morning routines. Let's get to that in a second. Regarding the meditation, it probably does benefit as a supplement to things like poker or business, a bit of it up to a point. And after that, it does make more sense to focus on business. Allegedly, a lot of people seem to center on this timeline of 20 minutes. I keep hearing that number over and over in many different places, 20 minutes daily. And if someone wanted to do more than that, then it's likely not going to be for making money anyway. It might make sense to do this more for like pursuing enlightenment or happiness or something like that. That could make sense to me. In which case, yeah, I've played with that idea, but it's a bit of a hard sell. Like sitting around meditating isn't a whole lot of fun. With regards to crazy emotions, certain kinds of meditations are supposed to help, but not all of them. Some meditations do deal with ADD, actually, but it's not an easy fix to my understanding. I have a bit of ADD, and that's something that hopefully I can report on more later. But a meditation I've been doing recently is actually watching myself do things, which is not really for ADD actually, but that's another form of meditation to distance oneself towards the I identity. But the breath work apparently also is one really good thing for pacifying really intense emotions. On the subject of morning routines, I've started to think that I'll have to get back to you on this, but I started to think that probably a little bit of delayed gratification in the beginning of the morning is actually best. But I don't know how many poker players out there wake up and they're kind of tired and all of that. Have you looked more into, like, to do anything for sleep when you're thinking about your poker game as well?
No, but I do track my sleep with this. It's like an Aura ring. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah, I have one somewhere.
Yeah, I usually try to track my sleep, just make sure I'm, getting a relatively decent score on my sleep on a consistent basis. But other than that, that's pretty much all I do. I mean, as a poker player, it's very difficult to get good sleep consistently. So I think that is like a very important subject for a lot of poker players, because a lot of times you're playing late night sessions, waking up super late. So being able to like figure out a routine in a sense where you can never really have like the perfect routine as a poker player, but like figuring out some sort of like benchmarks for, getting X amount of sleep a week, or like hitting X amount of score on a day on average throughout the week, I think is a good thing.
How's your score? Is it good?
So it scales from 1 to 100, and 100 being the high. Generally speaking, I'm falling somewhere in like the mid 70s for all three categories. Readiness, and then just like, let me actually look at what the exact categories were one more time. But yeah, generally speaking, yeah. So readiness, sleep, and activity, I'm usually around like the mid 70s for every single one. And that's my goal for every week, is like to average this out to be roughly 75%.
Yeah, I've slowly gotten more on that page. Are you playing late night sessions? What are the typical global Kenny cast game tournament sessions looking like? What's a day in your life?
So I'm in San Diego right now. So like game access is like relatively like limited in this area. So I usually play like Monday, Wednesday, Friday in San Diego. And then I play Thursdays in LA. And then that's kind of like what my standard schedule looks like when I'm at home. And usually all my sessions end relatively early, which is good, because these are all games that like break at a certain point in time. And generally speaking, the game is breaking around midnight anyways. So it's going to start usually anywhere from 3 to 4 p.m. on a given day and end around 12. So I get like roughly an 8-hour session in there, and then I'm home before 1.
Oh, that doesn't sound so bad, because a lot of poker players, myself included, have played very long late night sessions. Actually, Bobby's room, or like this Big Mix, the 3K, 6K, used to run through the night into 4 a.m. and all that. I was playing actually with the guy, Ray, who had insomnia and he couldn't sleep, but I happened to wake up at like 5 a.m. So I played him. But yeah, that sounds manageable. That's surprising.
It's
a little bit.
It's a very, very relaxed schedule now. But like when I was playing like lower stakes, when I was like last year and stuff, and like grinding my bankroll up, I was playing extremely long, super late night sessions. It was like 5-5, 5-5, 10, things like this. And I would play like 16-hour sessions, 20-hour sessions, even like 24-hour sessions sometimes. So like that was kind of like last year. And then this year I've kind of like tried to figure out a way to be a little bit more sustainable, respect my body a little bit more, try to like have a better routine in place. And it's also just helped because naturally, as you like move up in stakes, like there isn't really a ton of games, at least in San Diego, that you could just willingly play all the time. That's like 10, 20 or whatever. So, and then like when I'm traveling to like Vegas or LA, I don't really have a schedule. I just go hard and play as much as I can and find as many games as I can play and just play as many hours as I can realistically put in. But when I'm at least back home in San Diego, which probably isn't even for that long. I mean, it's probably around like 2/3 of my time is spent in San Diego now. That's kind of what my schedule looks like. So it's much more relaxing when I'm out here, which is why I enjoy being out here, because it's almost like a vacation. And then when I go play in Vegas, when I go play in LA and stay for a few weeks, like I'm playing every single day for like, 8 to 12 hours a day.
Sure. So what is most of that live?
Yeah. I'm pretty much, I mean, I played online a little bit here and there, and just to get like hand histories and stuff like this. But generally speaking, all of my volume is in live poker these days.
Okay. So how did you come from mid stakes to like? Are there much mid stakes soft? Like, is there a lot of money in mid stakes on the West Coast? Is it? How did you get to higher stakes from grinding games?
What would you consider mid stakes? Like 2.5 to like 5.10, 10.20 type of thing, or
2.5 to 5.10? I think 2.5 especially because the biggest complaint is the rake's too high. Like the games are unbeatable. The rake sounds pretty crazy, to be fair. I mean, I've also seen people play and thought, wow, okay, the others like, and poker's not exactly solved. It doesn't look that much tougher in a way than it used to, but the rake sounds like quite a hurdle.
yeah, it's interesting. So like I started off playing in Sacramento because that's where I went to college and lived for a year after I was in college. And out there, the player pool for all of mid stakes is basically combined into one because there's no 5-10 games there. There's no 2-5 games there. It's pretty much just 1-3, but it's match the stack. So the games play somewhere along the lines of like a 2-5 game, I would say, but it brings in the 1-3 players and also brings down the 5-10 players because there's no game access for those stakes. So everybody just plays 1-3 match the stack and just kind of like go to a table where the game's playing bigger if you want to play bigger, and go to a table where the game's playing smaller if you want to play smaller. And that's kind of like where I started playing. So when I moved down to San Diego, I was already relatively accustomed to playing like a game of like the 2.5, 5.5 size. So kind of jumping in was no real hurdle, but like to get to that next step of playing like 10-20 plus, I hit a couple MTT scores towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year that allowed me to like kind of get a little boost in my bankroll that was necessary for me to like shot take 25-50 and 50-100.
Well, how many years have you been playing?
I've been playing now for 3.5 years.
Oh, okay. That's not so crazy. Yeah, okay. It shows it's doable. I had hoped that it was possible to do this within like 2 years to get to high stakes. But I mean, it's still like you're still playing pretty high stakes, and it's kind of fast these days. I'd say maybe very fast for playing live poker. Actually, like it's not easy grind up. Or what do you think? Has it been? How doable do you think this is for others?
I think it's definitely doable, and I think it's doable in a shorter amount of time than I did it in, for sure. It's just like I didn't really have the right resources or know where to look. I think if I knew where to look and I like had to restart my career, I could do it within 2 years for sure now. But obviously the first time around is always going to be tougher than the second time around if you had to do it again. So I mean, like going from 1-3 to 5-10, like this is just going to happen to anybody that is willing to put in work. But like from 5-10 to 25-50, it kind of takes, I wouldn't necessarily say luck, but either a long period of time grinding cash, or like you need to run into a couple lucky spots in a sense that you hit a couple MTT scores that like just give you like this massive boost to your roll, so where you can start playing later.
Isn't there 10-20 in between? And also you said there in your Instagram, you say that you make your own luck. Isn't that right?
That is true. That is true. You do make your own luck in a sense that I think in general, I mean, I think this is just true for anything, but at the end of the day, a lot of people like associate just there being so much luck in poker, but obviously we all know it's not luck that, you know, takes you from 1-3 to 25-50. It's the process, it's the journey, and it's like putting the work in that's necessary to get there and then building the roll. And, you know, that I think anybody can do it if they put enough work.
I'd hope so. At least, are there lots of opportunities that aren't grinding the game, the public game, for a lot of these players, especially if someone isn't winning? Are there opportunities for these players to also get some kind of like play some kind of private game where there's money, or even opportunities for someone like you who is beating these lower stakes games Did you find many of those along the way while in California?
No, honestly, and I don't think it's necessary at all. For like anybody that's playing like 10, 20 or under, I don't think it's necessary to like find private games at all because the 5-10 games, at least on the West Coast, are so soft anyways. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily like a huge deal whether you are playing in a private 5-10 game versus a public 5-10 game. Like I pretty much played all public games up until this year, and even the games that I play this year are like semi-public in a sense that like anybody who wanted to play in these games could probably just like hit up the host and get into the games. So I've never really had much experience with private games to begin with.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That sounds like there's lots of potential then. And it sounds not incredibly difficult to get to high stakes. Like 5-10s, that's 100,000 or whatever a year, right? I mean, if someone grinds a decent amount.
No, I think making like 150,000 a year playing 5-10 is definitely doable for anybody that lives on the West Coast that puts in effort.
All right, we might have to check the math for that one. Well, I know you played on Live at the Commerce. Do you think anyone can get to that kind of level to play? And if it wasn't just asking the host, do you think you have like you have a reputation for being more talkative and a bit more active at the table than others. Do you think that has something to do with it, of you getting invited on? Or can anyone like find a way to get on an opportunity like that to play a $10,000 blind game?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I think it was definitely easier for me than what it would be for like the average player, just because I've built like a social media brand. People kind of like I'm at least bringing something to the show in a sense that like I'm going to bring them a couple like extra viewers in a sense. So I think it's definitely easier in that aspect, but I still know tons of like guys that have played on big shows, the Hustler, Bally in LA, that are just like pretty much unknown MTT pros that just grind MTTs and are very good players, and maybe not even that action in a sense where they're not going to VPIP and they're still going to like bottom chart the VPIPs and still get invited at least once, right? They're going to get invited and they're going to be given a shot. But I think, yeah, like to continuously get invited, you have to like be at least more action in a sense.
Okay, so let's talk about your social media brand and being a bit more talkative at the tables. So, you know, what was the process going into building the social media brand? Because, I mean, 50,000 isn't like a huge number of social media followers, but in poker, it's pretty good, especially these days on Instagram. And if you weren't well known in the first place, how did you make this happen?
Yeah, so I started creating social media content about a year into playing poker. So like roughly 2.5 years ago, I believe is when I started. Two years ago, and maybe like 2 years and 3 months ago or something, March 2023, I believe, somewhere around this time. The main reason that I got into social media creation and just like content creation in general was because my roommate at the time, I was still in college, was a famous TikToker, or at least in the past was a famous TikToker. And he had built up brands, and we were both gambling together. We were both playing poker together. And he's like, "You're pretty good at poker. I think people would like to watch you play." And at that time, there weren't many people creating social media content for poker, at least on Instagram. So the market was very unsaturated about 2.5 years ago. If you look at it now, there's a lot of guys that are trying to post videos, a lot of guys that are trying to create content on TikTok and Instagram. But 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, it was very unsaturated market. There weren't that many people creating at that time. So kind of as soon as I started posting, to be honest, I was already starting to get traction. So that's kind of what motivated me. I think it's like always tough when you start something and for an extended period of time, you don't see any type of results. That's like pushing through that time is really difficult. But luckily, even from, the first couple posts that I made, I'd already been getting decent amount of views. So I felt like very motivated to keep pushing content out. And then it just kind of snowballed. Initially, I was doing just like the very basic, just like showing the hands that I was playing, like one hand here, one hand there, and just like showing the interesting hands I would play in a session and just clip it up and post it on Instagram. But then it kind of evolved because, like I said, there were so many people that were kind of getting into their social media creation. So it was tough to be different. And when there's a lot of people doing the same thing, the market's relatively saturated. So you're going to try to branch off into different ways to create like newer types of content that people would want to see. So that's kind of how I branched into like, you know, creating more like day in the life stuff of a poker player, as opposed to just some pretty repetitive hand histories that you're seeing like all over social media now.
Okay. Well, how's it going these days? Are you still focused on growing all of that? It does sound a bit tougher these days too. It's still kind of new in comparison to other industries. It seems like people are still kind of killing it recording some poker hands.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's very, very doable right now, because you're seeing guys that are like blowing up really, really fast in poker, in the poker space, in the content space, even with just having posts for like the last 6 to 12 months. So I think it's definitely doable. But at least for me, kind of what I'm trying to branch off into now is more of like the long form. Like I kind of built a little bit of a social media brand in terms of the short form stuff. So I am still going to continue that, but that might take a little bit of a backseat to like actually doing YouTube blogs, because that's something that I'm trying to get into. I think there's a little bit more potential in that spot. So I'm trying to branch into that, working on, you know, finding the right team to help me, you know, build out some of these good blogs that people would want to watch.
So what's the potential in that? Because the vlogs take, I mean, is there really that much money in it? How much money are you making from the other social media stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the money that I make from the short form content is like not that much. It's just very minimal in comparison to like actually playing. So that's why I'm saying like I've taken a much like more backseat approach to the short form content, because at least from a financial perspective and opportunity cost, it's like playing poker is going to give me just a lot like is going to allow me to build my bankroll a lot faster in a sense. But at least for the short form content, what's cool about it is it kind of gets your name out there more. So I feel like I'm going to have easier experiences and an easier time like playing different games that I might not have been able to play. And also just like, like there's some small brand partnerships that you're going to get here and there. You know, like throw a couple reels up, you know, do like a month-long contract for like 3 to 5K or something here, and then 3 to 5K here. Like it's very minimal compared to the actual playing, but I have heard from YouTubers specifically actually doing like the YouTube long form content stuff can lead to more financial benefits.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I was not doing long term for the money. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
The podcasts are, I don't know if I made any money for the podcast. Maybe indirectly I made some, but it was never for the money for me.
Yeah.
Or at least I made way more money actually playing poker.
Yeah, exactly. That's why like it's tough for me, because while I do really enjoy creating content and like building my brand, it's more of like something that I'm just doing to like document and like, you know, showcase to all the other people in the world that, you know, like playing poker is like. But as far as the money aspect is concerned, obviously like poker thing, that's paying the bills and stuff like that.
All right. So let's talk about money, the money you made. What's the biggest pot you've won? What about the craziest hand you've played? Well, especially if they're not the same.
Okay, so the biggest pot I've played, won and lost, roughly around like 50K. Both rounds. Like I've lost around a 50K pot and I've won around a 50K pot, and they were actually in the same exact session. The craziest hand that I ever played, I guess it could just be the biggest pot I won. Although I'm not entirely sure what he had, so I guess there's that. Oh no, what is the craziest? Like craziest hand in what way? Just like the most memorable hand to me, or?
Yeah, the most memorable. Let's just go with that.
Okay, so most memorable pot that I've ever played was probably like the first really big pot that I ever won. In a sense that like, I don't think I had played many like 10 or even 15K pots at this point. But I did end up winning like this 20K pot, and that's probably the one that stuck with me the most. So kind of what happened was I'm in the cutoff button with pocket aces, and then early position raises to 60. We're playing 5, 10, 20, and we're sitting about 10K effective. And then I 3-bet on the button to like, I don't know, 225, whatever the standard sizing was. And then he calls, and then the flop comes 3, 3, king, I think 3, 3, king. And he checks. I see that. No, king. No, it was king deuce 3. King deuce 3. And he checks. I see that. The hot pot. He calls. Turn comes the 3 of clubs, and it like brings in this backdoor flush draw sort of thing. He checks again. So now the board's paired. I overbet the turn pretty big. And then he check raises on the turn. I don't know. Well, I don't know the exact dollar amounts though, but he check raises. So like at this point, what he's doing is he's like trying to represent that he has a 3, I assume, 3 or like a 2s.
That's really log, right?
Yeah, the real 3 best hot. And we're just super, super deep. It's king deuce 3, and then the turn is a 3.
Okay. All right.
So it's like king deuce 3, 3. He check raises the turn. Don't even remember the size of the check raise, but this is leaving like roughly like a 7K or 8K, or no, not 7K. It's leaving like a 5K bet on the river or like a 6K bet on the river into like a pot of like 10K or something. So I call the turn check raise after I overbet and he check raises. And then the river comes like another king, and it comes and it brings in what was like the front door flush draw. It brings in the front door flush draw with the king. So now it's king deuce 3, 3 king. So it's the board's double paired. I have pocket aces, and then he just jams the river, obviously representing like some sort of full house now, either with a 3 or a king. And then I just ended up tank calling because I don't know, like part of my reasoning was like he doesn't have like flushes in this line, I don't think, because he would have check raised all those flush draws on the flop. He was a player that like check raises like every single flush draw that he has. So I just assumed that he never has the front door flush draw. He always has the back door flush draw if he is check raising. And then I didn't expect him to ever check raise any type of king X on the turn, obviously, when I bet. And then the 3X is just like he has like ace 3 suited, and I'm like double blocking like the suited wheel aces that match the board. So it's like a pretty easy call, I think. Although it was like a weird situation because it's like, I don't know how he wants to find bluffs on this river when I call his turn check raise. Like I just have ace king so much there, but yeah, that was the biggest pot, and that was the most memorable one.
Yeah, and jamming is wildly suspicious when the river is a king. I'll say that if someone jams, I'd think, okay, really? Just because there's a real good chance you have a king. I would think that check 100%. What do you have?
He ended up having 5, 6 of clubs. So he flopped the gutter and then turned the backdoor flush draw. So he check raised the combo draw on the turn, and then just bricked everything on the river.
Oh, well, good job. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, that's a good hand. All right. What about the biggest bluff you ever ran?
I don't know, but I don't know what like the biggest size is in terms of pot, but definitely the one that I remember the most is like this hand that I played also in that same game. This is a game that runs in San Diego, and like I generally feel like super comfortable in this game because I know all the players and I know how like everybody likes to play. So like I'm more comfortable getting a little bit more out of line in these spots. So there was this hand where like I raise ace king with the ace of spades, ace king off in the cutoff, and then we get like a call from like the blind, and then the big blind or straddle, so it's 5, 10, 20, like the 20 makes it like 200, and then I 4-bet in position to like, I don't know, like 650, 700, and then he calls, and then this board comes out like low disconnected, like something like 7-5 deuce or something with 2 spades out there. And then he checks. I see that like half pot, he calls. And then the turn comes like the 9 of spades or something. So it brings in like the front door flush, but I just have the spade blocker. And then I just chose to just run it on him. And then like, I bet like 2/3 on the turn or 3/4 on the turn, he calls. And then the river was just a relative blank. And then I just shoved all in for like 7K or something, 8K into whatever the remaining pot was. And then he just folded. He had jacks is what he said. Yeah. So he like check call, and then check fold river. Jacks no spade.
Yeah, it seems totally reasonable. Kind of expected a bit of a crazier hand than that for some reason. At least maybe it's your personality that seems like you might have done some very unorthodox plays. I don't know. Maybe you've done them in a different, but they just weren't as big or that kind of thing. Would you say that your presence at the table, that's just naturally who you are, you would say, or did it change over time?
Yeah, I think just naturally at the table, like I like to play big pots. That's the biggest thing about me. So like, regardless of if I'm winning the pots or losing the pots, I just like to play big pots and I just like to blow pots up. So like every single time, like I'm entering a pot, like I'll probably play more 4-bet pots than anybody. Not that you've ever played with, but anybody that I've ever played with, I play the most 4-bet pots against. So like these pots just generally end up being huge. And then just like, I just like to play big pots. So I think that's my presence at the table. It's not like necessarily that people think I'm like over bluffing a ton or under bluffing or like maybe like being just too out of line. It's just like Kenny likes to play a lot of big pots. And if you want to play a hand with him, you're damn sure that it's probably going to be a big pot.
Okay. I guess it makes sense. It fits the name. So yeah. It's like, but you also have a reputation for being a bit more talkative at the table, or is that misunderstood?
I wouldn't really say I'm that talkative at the table. I don't think I like talk any more than anybody else, or like not talk as much as anybody else. But I will say maybe you're confusing me with my brother, because my brother does talk a lot at the table. He's Global Danny, and you'll get a chance to meet him as well. And he's a little bit more talkative than me for sure. I'm a little bit more introverted, but like at the poker table, I do like to, have conversations and stuff. I think there's so many interesting characters at the poker table that you'll meet. So it's always fun to talk to everybody. But I think my brother is naturally just like a lot more talkative for sure.
Okay. Well, what are your plans going forward with poker? Do you think, are you going to be playing a lot more overseas in the near future? Are you going to play more WSOP events? Are you out here in WSOP?
I was out here. I was out there for like 2 weeks, and I just got back like 4 or 5 days ago. I'm here for roughly another week. Then I'll be back in Vegas for the main event. So I'll play that, and then like whatever their side events are going on during that period of time, I'll be there for like another 11 days, just grinding. If I bust out of the main early, maybe I'll try to play some cash or fire some other tournaments. I don't really have a set schedule for that other than just like playing the last flight of the main event. And then I have plans to go to Taiwan for the APT 10K. And I believe that's November. I think it's November or October, something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but there's a big series happening in Taiwan for that. And that'll be my first time traveling overseas, like specifically to play poker. So I'm very excited about that. And other than that, I just have plans mostly to try to hit every single, televised live stream over the next couple of years. Just try and hit the Lodge, try and hit the Hustler, just like try to play in as many games that, there's bigger games and it's going to be streamed for everybody to watch.
There is, by the way, a televised live stream in Taiwan. I don't know how consistent it is, but it runs sometimes. I played a little bit on it. Seems to be pretty soft too, but it's a little bit bigger than the Live at the Commerce one. It's a little bit bigger than 100, 200, I believe, or at least plays that big. Actually, I recorded a couple hands on it while I was trying to become a content creator, and I announced my hand. So I said, I'm raising a early position with ace queen to the table. But yeah, are you gonna be playing? We're gonna see you on that, maybe.
Maybe we'll see. Yeah, 1-2 is a little big for me right now. I think the biggest I've ever played was like 51, but granted, the Strata was on pretty much for the entire game, so it was like 1-2. But if it's like 1-2 with the Strata on, that's a little big for me for sure. So
It's more like
I'd be playing that.
It's more like it's probably. I think it's something like 80, 160 with maybe some straddles.
Okay.
That's my guess, and not the ante. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe at that point in time, I'll feel comfortable playing in a game of that size. But I think right now I'm going to stick to, like I think like where I'm comfortable is like quarter 50, and then like maybe a little bit of 51 mixed in as well.
Sure. What other streams we're talking? We got Live at the Commerce, so I'll be seeing you in California a lot.
Yeah.
Playing on some Hustlers, maybe. What other kind of streams?
Yeah, I want to play on the Lodge for sure. I want to get out there to play. I'll also want to play what was it called? The Champions one. I've talked to them for a little bit. The Champions Club in Texas, to get out there to play on that stream. It's a little bit of a smaller stream, but they get some bigger games that run out of there too. So I think that would be fun to like make a Texas trip, and then just hit all the Texas streams. And then also, yeah, the Hustler is going to be a big one. Hopefully can get on at some point over the next few months.
There's Poker Night in America too. I think there's a few different streams. JRB also has a stream that's 100, 200 at the Venetian.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you might be grinding like this kind of stuff. You might be grinding maybe even some smaller streams. I know there's one in Jacksonville. I don't know all of them, to be honest, but there's like a number of streams.
Yeah, the actual like game that I play on a regular basis out here in San Diego is streamed. It's called Jamul Poker Live. If you look it up, it's a very small stream.
For more Poker Live?
Jamul Hamul J A.
Oh yeah, that's what. Okay, that note about them. Okay.
Yeah, and I play out there. That's like the usual game I play, the Friday games. So like today's game isn't streamed, but the Wednesday game is usually streamed. And then just like Live at the Commerce, pretty much going to be trying to play there every single week. And then, like you said, like the Venetian is another big one that I'm assuming that I'll probably play at some point as well. But definitely like, yeah, like putting an emphasis here on like the Lodge and the Hustler specifically.
Yeah, I think you'd do well on some of those. It's not exactly that tough, in my opinion. And I mean, I'm splashing around myself.
Yeah.
What other interests do you have? Is it just poker these days? Did you not? What did you study? Did you go to school? Like, what else are you going to do anything with the money?
Well, like I studied like managerial economics, which is like, I went to UC Davis, and that's basically like their form of like business and business statistics. So like I did work a full-time job after college for like almost a year, or maybe like a little bit longer than a year. And I was doing like some startup work with an aerospace company remotely and stuff like this. But I don't really have any like corporate interests per se. But I definitely would like to get into like some sort of like private investing markets at some point in my career. I don't think I have like enough money or connections for that yet. But, later down the line, that would be something that would interest me a lot.
Okay, like angel investing. There's different layers to it. So there's angel investing. There's private equity of like established companies. You could do something for more like a fund, like venture capital. There's also hedge funds. I mean, they're all a little bit different. And then there's stocks. There's REITs, real estate investment type things. I'm not like a huge expert myself, but okay. So you're thinking one of those routes,
like along the lines of like angel investing and then VC stuff, like potentially later down the line. I think this is like probably like 5 to 10 years down the line for me, though. I'm still young and I still love playing poker. So like this is going to be my focus for a while. Like I really enjoy playing, and I just like, I don't know, like there's something about poker that's just so much fun for me. So right now, like my biggest focus is just playing, and I want to, continue to build my brands up and like, get more social media followers and build up that aspect of, myself as well. But mostly right now, like my main focus is just on poker.
One thing you should do, or that hit me of an idea, when you go to Taiwan, that would be a great content opportunity.
Yeah.
The only thing, one thing, I haven't explored Taiwan properly, but there's loads of cool things in Taiwan that are nowhere near the actual capital, Taipei. Taipei's got like some cool stuff. It's not that easy to find, but as I was doing some research on the rest of the island, there's quite some stuff, as it turns out.
Yeah, I'm planning to like make that trip out there, and I'm gonna go with my girlfriend. So like we're probably gonna stay like at least an extra week to do, some tourist stuff and check out like different parts of the area. Definitely, like I enjoy traveling a lot too. That I guess that's like another interest I have with that tanks.
I'm personally hoping poker goes to China a bit more, because all of China is really beautiful. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, Taiwan is too. Taiwan's like it's more influenced by Japan. If you see a bit of the way the city's structured and all of that, there's some obvious influences, or maybe even some Western ones. I did take a little bit of a tour. There were some very beautiful beaches in Taiwan, but yeah, I myself would have to go back and check out some spots. Some southern cities are really cool. There's like this massive park that has many different layers to it. It's got multiple different hikes and beautiful places to tour. Went there briefly, but didn't have enough time for any of that. Just went to some really nice restaurants, which it's got a load of Michelin restaurants, that kind of stuff. Did some sound bath, I think. But yeah, it'd be cool to see what content you create from that. There's trying to make the content creation and poker stuff work. It's not that easy, in my opinion. I just keep screwing it up.
It's tough. I mean, like, it's really difficult because the thing I like to say is like, it's almost like a full-time job in itself to like do content really well. So like, as a poker player, if you're actually interested in like, climbing the stakes, getting better and making money from poker, as opposed to just like doing it for the content, it's tough to juggle the two things, because like on one side, you're playing like 20, 30, 40 hours a week, and then like studying a little bit as well. And then also doing the content, which is like I said, like almost another full-time job in itself. So it's like, it's quite difficult. But for a lot of creators, at least that I know, that like are doing amazing on content, a lot of times their actual focus is specifically on the content. And then, the poker is like a secondary matter to them.
Sure. Who's doing all this amazing content?
Corey's crushing the content. Frankie C is crushing the content. Rampage, Mariano, obviously legends of the content as well. So yeah, there's a lot of guys really crushing content. But like I said, I think it's hard to like have like so much focus on content in a sense, like, and spend the amount of time that's necessary to produce super high quality stuff on a regular basis, and like care about your poker results a ton, and like care about like getting better, studying, like moving up in stakes. Because like I said, it's like 2 full-time jobs, and 2 full-time jobs doesn't necessarily work out all the time.
One thing I can tell you about playing high stakes poker is that if you're trying to be the best in the world, you need to really focus on your stuff. But once you get to the stream game level, as a matter of fact, to these stream games, you don't really need to be like an extraordinary poker player to win all the stream games. They're really honest. If you're, playing your A game, if you're splashing around, okay, well, that's another story. Like, I wonder if I'm plus EV sometimes secretly when I'm playing, 30+% of hands. It's a bit annoying because people kind of push me to do that. I think I have to a little bit, and that can easily slide into the minus EV range. But if you don't have to worry about that, then yeah, you don't need to play fantastic. You're not playing with the all-stars. So there's a point where you don't really need to focus as much on poker content, on actually getting better at poker, and you can still make content. And for sure, there's a way of like combining the two. I've thought myself to record streams and then create some kind of reward mechanism for the people to like run and give the sims for me, so they could just do the homework for me. And then that way I'm learning and making content at the same time. So there might be some way of making both of those a reality, but it's not easy. One thing that helps a lot is you just get to the high stakes first, and you float a little with the extra money, which is what I'm kind of trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying too, though. But like I said, like I like to play lots of hands, especially on stream too. So like, I think it's necessary for me to like continue to get better because, you know, if I'm splashing it around, you know, playing 35-40% of hands on stream, like I'm still, I gotta play well in the hands that I play with the bad hands, because it's like if you're not playing well, then you're just kind of torching it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things that people really get about all that. Any last thing you'd like to say? Any brands that you'd like to promote?
Don't have any last minute thoughts, but a couple things I'd like to, you know, shout out. So you guys can follow me at Global Kenny Poker on Instagram, Global Kenny on YouTube. I posted my first YouTube blog there. I'll be posting more in the future. Just actually got done recording my second blog, so that should be out sometime next week. And then also, yeah, just like the other brands, antinitcampaign.com and antinitacademy.com. So those are the two brands that I'm kind of focused on working on right now. If you guys could take a look at them, that would be awesome.
All right, amazing. We need more anti-nits out there. Less boring people, less boring stuff in general for poker. We need poker to grow, guys, and make it fun for people to play on the whole, especially for recreationals, obviously, especially if they're going to lose money to us. Yes, congrats, Global Kenny, on all the things that you're doing, and wish you the best success. And in fact, I hope that you go on to invest in not venture capital, private equity or angel investing or whatever you're going to do. That'd be amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been great having you.
Thank you.